Hi, Tracy. Good seeing you again.
Hey, Drew.
What we're talking about today is something I've spent a lot of time on. I was an English major, so I've spent a lot of academic study in communication. And we're talking about the skill of communication or how to get everybody on the same page. I don't often hear of this as part of the training of small group leading, but I feel like from my experience, it's been pretty important. Do you have any experiences that highlight why it matters if you're a good communicator as a small group leader?
Yeah, absolutely. I think of last year when my son was starting middle school and he was interested in checking out a youth group. Actually, might have been more accurate to say I was interested in him checking out a youth group. But,
I know that
I
is.
initiated, right? Yeah. I initiated with the group leader because I had heard good things about this youth group and said, hey, could you put me on your email list? I'd love to find out when your meetings are. And for whatever reason, just never happened. So I had to go and initiate with my friend again and say, hey, I still haven't heard anything. And she's like, oh, I'll put you in contact. So I reached out again. Second time, still nothing. Basically, he went the whole year and we never really found out when the meeting times were, where to show up, any of that stuff. So it has a happy ending because he got involved the next year and whatever needed to happen with communication did. But that whole first year, we were really confused about how to connect, where to show up. And it was a good example of, I think, how crucial communication is when you're trying to reach out to people that are really interested in connecting and finding a place with your small group.
Yeah, it does feel like you can be awesome at some of these other skills of shepherding people and leading great Bible studies, but if we're not attentive to growing as a communicator, like all of that doesn't get utilized, if people don't even know the basics of, when to be there, what to do. When you think about communication, I mean, do you think of it as just a practical skill or is it more of a spiritual skill?
I really, really think it's both. I think it is very practical because it is just needing to tell people details of where, when, how, all that good stuff. But it's also spiritual because it's a form of hospitality, and I think of it as a real significant form of servant leadership. It's serving people to let them know those things. So I really think of it as both and.
So if you are someone who isn't a natural communicator, that doesn't feel like it's something that you do regularly. Like, what are the beginning steps of growing as a communicator? What are some things that we can focus on?
I'd say three things. I think the first is to be consistent. There's so many different ways to communicate these days, and we have so many different options. But I think it's just really important to really pick and let people know how you're going to do that. So, is it email? Is it group text? Is it Facebook? Just letting people know and choosing that, and then being consistent with that.
Yeah, it's good. Sometimes I have to set a reminder for myself for something like that. Like, oh, I want to send a weekly note. Like, I don't always think of that. But if I have something like that that reminds me, then okay, I can take care of that task. So
Yeah, that's
that's
good.
good. Consistency. Yeah. What else?
I'd also say be clear. So I think, in my story, put yourself in the shoes of someone that doesn't know anything at all. Like
Hmm.
pretend like you're new, or, we all have those experiences of checking out a new group for the very first time. Just put yourself in that place and imagine, like, what is that person wondering about? What is that person, what do they not know? And trying to fill in those gaps for them, because we just get stuck in, like, we understand, we know how it works, we know where to show up, but really putting yourself in someone else's shoes so that you go to the furthest extent of clarity that you can.
Yeah, that's really good. That's so helpful. And that, connects with what you're saying about being a servant leader part of it, like you're really serving and thinking about what others need. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's great. What else?
The last thing I would say is just go out of your way to be warm.
Hmm.
You can't really read tone over things like email or text or a lot of these written forms of communication. And so, I just always think about that. Like, someone can't read what kind of tone. They can't tell, am I being curt, when I just think I'm being efficient? Like, do they think I'm being cold when I'm just thinking, like, I'm just getting the info out, but going out of your way to say, I'm really looking forward to seeing you, or I'm so excited about what God is doing, just adding a little bit of that warmth in the communication,
Hmm.
I think really helps to have people receive the message that you intend, and to help it come across the way that you mean it in your own heart and in your mind, but might not come through the written kind of communication things.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That does help make it relational and not just, the mechanics of, you're not showing up for your driver's test, but it's the people of God meeting together. So that's really good. All right. So consistency, clarity, and then also being able to, communicate with warmth. Thanks, Tracy. That's really helpful.
Thanks, Drew. Great being with you.
Likewise.